Peace and blessings, soul family. I love you all. Hope everyone's doing well. Today we're going to talk about the 4 levels of the word, 4 levels of sound found within non-dual Shiva Tantra and also just within like Nada Yoga. So let's see. The form in which the highest divinity is worshipped in one school of non-dual Shiva Tantra, the Trika, is the goddess called Padavak, also known as Padavak, the supreme word, or simply sometimes called Para. Para is the tantric equivalent of the mainstream Hindu deity Saraswati, except that she is revered in the Trika as the highest principle of reality rather than as one goddess among many. She is also called Anuttara, the feminine absolute. In the Trika, the total of existence is understood as an expression of the supreme word, and thus all beings are the word made flesh, as it were. This concept is parallels to the Greek thought found in the beginning of the Gospel of John in the Christian tradition, where the word is the English translation of logos, denoting the deep structure of reality, the harmonic animating principle of the universe. In this view, everything is harmonic vibration of that one word. Padavak, then, is both the power of inspiration and the organizing intelligence of embodied consciousness, the subtle patterning in the awareness that shapes both the world of things and the corresponding world of ideation and representation. The word manifests in 2 different ways, and these mirror each other: signifiers and that which they signify. That is, the word becomes both the symbolic units of language and the objects of experience to which they refer. These are the internalized and externalized dimensions of the one consciousness, the goddess, Para. When we do not see the common root of both external objects of experience and the internal ideas that reflect them, we fail to realize that their interdependence. For example, we erroneously believe that external realities shape our inner world, but not the other way around, whereas, in fact, both aspects are constantly shaping and reshaping each other in a two-way dialectic process. So you got the supreme word, then you have the inner signifier and the outer signified. The 2 sides of this process are described in Shiva Tantra as each having several aspects, thus giving us the so-called Sixfold path of reality, Sad Adhamana, presented below. Note that the outer path is on the right is the Prakasha aspect, or the inner path. On the left side is Vimarsha aspect in the Pratyabhigyana, or Bhigya. Signifier, Vakaka, the inner path, which you have Varna, which is phonemes and subtle pulsations. Mantra was morphemes and thought units. Then you have Pada, which is words and phrases. Those are the signifiers. Then on the signified, we have Kala, the 5 major divisions of reality. Tattvas, the 36 tattvas we've been speaking about. Bhuvana, the 118 planes of reality. The listing moves from a subtler at the top and the more tangible and concrete at the bottom, Sukshma to Sthula. This process is simply the densification of singular energy of consciousness. We should also note that the division into internal and external makes sense only from the perspective of the individuated conscious being. From the absolute perspective, of course, nothing at all is external to awareness. The Sixfold path is a pan-Shiva doctrine. Not just found in the Trika, however, it is in the Trika that explores and builds the theology around the inner path of the signifier. It is this theology that I mean when I refer to the linguistic mysticism of the Trika. Now, you may have already noticed an apparent problem with this picture of things, which is this: if the so-called inner path of ideas and language and the outer path of things and worlds have a common origin and mirror one another, why do they not correspond perfectly? Why do we as individuals often hold ideas that are not in alignment with the nature of our external reality? The answer lies in the fact that consciousness, the ground of reality, is by its very nature absolutely free and autonomous. So free, in fact, that it is free to construct any picture it likes of reality, to build up any discourse about reality that it shows or is fascinated by, even one that is very much at odds with the deep structures of patterns of reality. In other words, consciousness in its concretive form or contracted form is subject to limited knowledge, and when, because of the contracted awareness, it takes its limited knowledge of reality as being complete, It builds up a picture of reality on the basis that is skewed and distorted, however many truths that picture may contain. And of course, this skewed picture of things does correspond to a reality, the reality of our limitations in our perception. So, all thought forms do correspond to some aspect of reality, just not always in the way that we do think. From this point of view, the whole process of sadhana, spiritual practice, is nothing but the process of carefully and slowly aligning our internal mental constructs of reality, which are vikalpas, with the actual patterns of reality itself, and of discarding those that cannot be so aligned. Note that in a fully expanded mode of awareness, this process can happen effortlessly on its own accord. Put it another way, sadhana consists of learning how to cast aside our presumptions, to carefully observe what is happening around and within us without labels, and then to surrender our various skewed stories about reality to reality itself. This is non-dual language for what many religions call submitting to the will of God. At some point, the effort involved in this process gives way to an epiphany, a deep and profound insight into the deep structures of consciousness, into the mind of God, if you will, as a result of which a process of alignment unfolds more and less spontaneously. The Trika articulates a doctrine of 4 levels of the word in order to help us understand the inner path, the process by which each construct a particular experience of reality. Understanding all of this is crucial for those of us who wish to open themselves to the real nature of things and surrender all mind-created suffering. We will investigate the 4 levels here. We have already mentioned the highest level, para. Now we will start from the lowest level and come back full circle. We start, as usual, from the so-called lowest level because that is the most concrete and obvious, the most familiar to us. We always start from where we are on the spiritual path. And here's a little chart kind of explaining these 4 levels. We have Vaikari, the translation is corporeal. Predominant aspect of consciousness is the object. The predominant Shakti is action. And the sphere of perception is duality. Then you move to Madhyama, the intermediate. And this is the predominant aspect of consciousness is the process. The predominant Shakti is knowledge, and the sphere of perception is synthesis. Pashyanti is the translation is visionary. Predominant aspect of consciousness is the subject. Predominant Shakti is the will, and the sphere of perception is non-duality. And then we have Para, the supreme, which is the transcendental subject. And the predominant Shakti is freedom, and the sphere of perception is supreme non-duality. So, I love you all. Hope everyone's doing well. That was just like a little intro to these 4 levels, and I will come back and record each of these levels individually. I love you all. Hope everyone's doing well. Peace and blessings.